fight here in the back, but to Vic, rolling into the back line, under assault but still alive, trying to give Sweden a way into this Australian defense, and it appears he has the end of Swoosh, who got cut down both tanks as they were looking at Tavik. This is big here for Sweden as they go even deeper into Australian territory.
They've won the fight, but they haven't got themselves a time extension yet. They still need to get to the second checkpoint. The limousine's going around the corner, and RQT dies off screen to Tavik. That's not good for Australia. It's going to be another 8 seconds before he respawns and can come back to join his team for the next fight.
That is a bit of a power play here for Sweden. They will have that numerical advantage. Australia now has to decide, do they wait more time-wise to get a full 6, or do they go in now? And it appears like they will wait to have their full team here once more, and now they roll back onto the point.
Sweden did a good job there, though. They found an isolated Australia player, eats you up. They jumped on top of him and were able to dispatch him at the start of the fight. But Trill's found Chips high. Again, the vulnerable support on the backline is subject to the Winston getting right in his face. Vic trying to jump back and forth to deal with the Genji here, but an EMP's popped over the fight.
The EMP was used into the back line, and it hurt Sweden a little bit, but Australia has not won this fight here just yet. Very even. 4 on 4, still onto the point. Sweden trying to push that payload to its next stage, but Tavik opening it up. Sweden has struck deeply into Australia now. Will it be enough to take this point?
That pulse bomb was huge, and now Aitar, the Dragon Blade's out. This is a big gambit for Australia. They need to hold on right now. Ichuap's found 2 off camera. Sphinx forced to recall and turn back in time. But now Ichuap is back on the point. You see 2 big Winstons over the payload, trying to knock each other off, but give their team a positional advantage.
This is really big right now for Australia. They are fighting right now, Mitch. They're bringing it back. But here comes Swoosh, a Dragon Blade of his own. And no, he's taken down. Australia defending their turf, and Sweden might not be able to bring it back in.
Sweden stopped in their tracks, and overtime is done. Australia stands tall and holds just in front of the Gold Giant Studios. A very impressive defensive effort, and now, as we go into the second half of this map, Australia simply needs to get that limousine a little further.
Sweden was only able to pick up 1 point on their attack, which means that Australia, coming in on attack of their own, if they are able to get more progress, they will end the map with 2 points and thus be the victors in map 1 of this 4-map set. Australia has put themselves in a great position to take this first map.
In the game chat in the lobby, before the game, Reinforced from Sweden was trying to get in the heads of Australia a little bit and says, we know your weaknesses. Wouldn't it be a shame if this crowd weren't able to cheer for a victorious Australian squad? So far, he may be forced to eat his words. This is the first map of 4. Australia only need to win 1 map to secure qualification to the playoffs, but more maps here means that they will come out as the top of their group and get to play ostensibly the easier opponent when it comes to the final playoff match to see whether they will make it to BlizzCon.
Australia right now is playing in front of an absolutely electric crowd, and you're right. What is at stake here is not only getting into the top 2, but potentially ending up with the top seed in their group, and that is a big deal. And I gotta tell you, we've seen a lot of defenses in Hollywood, but that was easily one of the best ones we've seen in this group stage here so far.
The importance of Australia able to hold Sweden back to only 1 checkpoint cannot be overstated. Now they need to purely just beat that time or beat that distance. So get the payload, the limousine, a little bit further than Sweden did. And you'll see it. It'll be denoted by a yellow box. We flew over it just beforehand. But first things first, Australia need to get the limousine moving by controlling this point in the same way that Sweden did. And the hope is that they'll be able to do it much faster.
Indeed, and what we see right now, Australia is still going to be the blue team here, but now they're going to be on the attack. Sweden now is holding their territory on point A, and we'll see if the Australians can come up with a faster offense than what we saw from Sweden just a moment ago.
It's a similar team composition, similar selection of heroes for Australia as we saw on the defense. Sweden's running a Soldier 76, a long-range fighter who can obviously use his rifle to keep himself safe while doing damage. But Australia, they've come around the backside of the point here. They're trying to outmaneuver, outposition Sweden, and then find those squishy targets to get a man advantage in the fight.
It's a sneakier positioning right now from Australia. They're trying to corral Sweden and find the right way to engage, and now it looks like they find the time to strike, but no, they're going to back up a bit. They don't like what they're seeing. They're taking it slow here, Mitch, as they look for that proper opportunity.
Aitar Trill goes down, and that's an ideal. Reinforced deals with it, but Aitar was also very low and was forced to get out of the fight. You can see that Sweden just turned around and collapsed onto Australia. Australia was split between the high ground of the cafe and just that corner on the right side of the screen. Not ideal, and Sweden was able to pick and choose their targets.
Australia able or not able to get in the way they want to there. Sweden read their offense and had a great counter engage on the defense. But remember, Australia is working with a bunch of time here. They can still have a faster attack, and they will get multiple attempts here to get through point A and try and beat Sweden's time.
That blue effect at the bottom of the screen you just saw means that ATAR's Dragon Blade is now ready for use. It's a huge way to break apart defensive teams. A lot of damage is available, but it requires ATAR to be right in front of his opponents to strike him with the sword.
And ATAR right now, you know that Australia is going to be playing around him. He's holding here into the back line, and he is waiting for the right opportunity to bring out that blade and cut through the Swedish back line. And so far, Sweden does not have a defensive ultimate to deal with it. They will not be able to shield themselves. ATAR right now biding his time, and now he goes in.
Dragon Blade out, let's see what he can get for it. He's going to dash straight through. He gets one, chips high and falls down. He's looking for a couple more, but he's low on HP. He's forced to back out. Australia are 2 for 1 so far in this fight. They're at a man advantage. A self-destruct on the point will force them back, and RQT, he's caught by the explosion.
It's 4-on-4 right now. Australia can still bring this fight back over, but it's not as clean as they would like. And Sweden is holding strong here so far. But remember, Australia, they have a respawn advantage. They get reinforcements quicker here, and they're going to need them because this fight is now going very heavily against them.
Not great for Australia. No progress on the capture. They looked like they had an opening, an opportunity. They used a lot of those ultimate abilities that are only come up every so often to try and get on towards a point, and it was to no avail. Now, they're getting a little bit concerned. If they can't capture this point, they will lose this first map.
Sweden has definitely brought this one back, and if you are an Australian fan right now, you have to be concerned. But this is a nice engage, immediately pushing Sweden back, getting control, but the EMP comes out from Australia. That's to try and bring this more in their favor, and they do. They get the first 2 picks.
2 for 1 again. That's how Australia started the last fight. Now it's a 4v4 situation over on the point. Trill is very healthy though, and this is looking a little bit better this time for Australia. Primal Rage is available, but Trick has caused so many problems for the Australian on the point. His Tracer has been very, very good. He stayed out of harm's way, but finally he drops. And now Trill has time for the Rock'em Sock'em Winston show in the cafe.
He is turning that cafe into a place you don't want to be if you're Sweden. Good zone control from Australia. Sweden though, back in over the top. They drop the EMP and they force the Australians back. It is an absolute brawl here on the point, and Sweden might be pulling this back, but it is awfully close.
Pulse bomb thrown to the ground now. Sound barrier up for Sweden. Gives them a little bit of extra health to start this fight off, and that's not ideal for Australia now. The war of attrition is starting to go against the Aussies. Sweden taking control. Ichu up at least gets Manhattan out of his Diva mech. That's helpful, but it's not going to get the whole job done. It's a one-man army right now as Ichu up is trying to hold Australia up on this point.
Eat you up right now is the key part here for Australia. Holding on the flank, getting key kills, buying time for reinforcements, and they are still fighting for this point. It could go either way. It is going back and forth. Both teams trading out kills right now, but Australia, do they have what it takes in this final moment?
15 seconds remaining. There's one more chance for Australia to get towards this point. Otherwise, the map will go against them here. Gunba has his EMP ready to use. He wants to try and catch as many of the Swedes as he can with it.
All right, and this is big for Australia. Will they be able to get this payload moving? We're about to find out. Gunba looking for the EMP, dropping in over the cafe, holds it and uses it. Hitting 3 members of Sweden. They get the first kill, but will it be enough?
Again, the fight starts well for Australia, but it's back and forth stuff over on this point. Reinforced, trying to stay healthy. Pulse bomb has dropped at his feet, but doesn't quite connect. No, Kiki's Diva is caught. He's forced to eject now, and Sweden are in control. Overtime's ticking down. It's not going to be enough, though. Only Gunba is left. He's going to be swatted away to the side, and the overtime bar is going to tick down. No, Sweden take the first match here, and now they're getting fired up.
That was an amazing start for Australia, but a better ending for Sweden here, where they bloody Australia for the first time in this entire group stage. That is the first map Australia has lost, and you see reinforced there for Team Sweden, definitely feeling the victory here early on.
So it was written and so it was discovered on this day, at least. Australians can bleed, but this series is far from done. 1-0 to Sweden, 3 maps to remain. Let's have a look back at the play of the game here. One of the most memorable moments from the match that was, which was incredibly close, very intense. This is Tvik on this Tracer. Note that he can dash around so quickly, keeping himself mobile, keeping himself behind the enemy, always coming from these unexpected angles. He's very low on health right now at 27 HP, and he still stays alive, still maintains a presence in these fights.
And what you're seeing there, that was one of the flanker heroes in Overwatch, where they're noted for their mobility and their ability to make plays against the odds. And Tvik, one of the best players in the game, you won't see much better than that.
No, not at all, and that's going to be a big job for Australia to contend with. Ichu up is the Australian Tracer player normally, and so far the head-to-head between them has been very, very good. In fact, Ichu up has been winning the duels between the 2 Tracers, but the hallmark of a good flanker, the hallmark of a good Tracer player especially, is not getting rid of your opposite number so much as managing to put pressure on the backline of the enemy team, the heroes that are supplying healing or other protection to the other more vulnerable targets. So far, so good for Sweden. They're going to take that first map here as well, propelling them towards playoff contention. But the next map is going to be a control point map. Teams will fight over one singular central point in the middle of the map. Once they have it uncontested for a brief period of time, it will become under their control. Then they need to accrue 100%. And once they've done that, they will win that round. And of course, Ilios is part of 3 stages. There's 3 separate maps inside the one. And if you win 2 of those, you will win the map as a whole.
And the key thing to note here for these control point maps is that the distance for both teams to the middle is equidistant. Neither team has an edge in getting onto the point, which means that when you do get control, you want to hold on to that defensive advantage by being there first.
This is definitely a map where the fighting is going to be a little bit more constant, a little bit more chaotic, perhaps. You can see the well here. So we're starting on the well stage of Ilios right now, characterized, of course, by a big old hole in the middle. No, this is not Sparta, but you definitely don't want to go for a dive down that one. That will cause you to have to respawn. Need to stay up on that ground, try and pressure the enemy, maybe knock them in, but most of the fighting is going to happen around here.
And this is where Australia will try to bring things back, utilize the flanking DPS heroes that we were just talking about. They're tank heroes that control space, and of course long-range damage heroes like Soldier 76 to keep Sweden out. But Sweden, as we just saw there, they're very good at being scrappy on the point as well.
We knew this would be a very intense series here now, as I'll reinforce on screen, playing the Winston. He's the main tank for Sweden. His job is to...
Where Australia will try to bring things back, utilize and take a more aggressive posture here on the point. Australia going to be playing the flank, but Atar goes down. It's reinforcing Swoosh, combining together at the same time to remove him from the fight, and that gives Sweden a big edge here early on.
Again, Reinforced wants to chase down the other Winston, but he realizes there's no point because they have control of the point. Now they stand upon it, uncontested, and they'll capture it and flip it in their favor. Oh, each up gets punched in the face there by Reinforced. Perhaps it's a little bit personal, ZP, but now Sweden can start accruing that control percentage.
Sweden right now, they're in a great position here so far, and now for Australia, the question is, how do you climb the mountain and bring this one back? They're going to have to look at their options to rotate around, come in at a sneaky angle, and catch the Sweden defense off guard.
Australia now with a chance to regroup here and try and wrest control back in their favor. Swoosh. Again, just trying to get a bit of information here, just the double jumps to give it a little bit of extra height and throw some shurikens in to get it some damage. Big shout out, of course, to everyone following us here on 7 Mate as well. Some chaotic Overwatch for you now as Australia try and take Sweden on. It's 1-0 to Sweden in the series so far.
Now you take a look here, Sweden holding back, letting Australia move in, and they're using the space that they have available here where they can bend back but not necessarily break. They still have control of the point so long as Australia doesn't get people on it for an uncontested period of time. So Sweden is really playing with the defensive advantage here as Devik plays on the outskirts.
Yeah, you can see he's getting harassed by IHU up a little bit more, but now he gets himself a sound barrier, a lot more health, and Swoosh takes 2 down with 1 dash. He cleans through both Trill and RQT, limiting Australia to 4 players, and now the fight, a tough one for them so far. Kiki and Atar have contributions, but it's not enough to wrest Sweden off this point.
And this has been a very good start here for Sweden. You see their progress in the middle part of your screen. They are at 68% right now. What that means is that they only have to win 1, maybe 2 more fights to get control of this first round. Australia now, this is going to be a must-win fight coming for them in this next engagement.
Some big ultimates online. You can see the blue ticks in the player's portrait, so they're ready to let rip with their most effective abilities now. Devik, of course, his is to throw a pulse bomb now. It's going to be a sticky bomb that detonates on the foe if he can try and connect with him. He's looking to try and get up close and personal. It's very confusing, but Devastar finds Gumbo early on. Again, Australia struggling to start these fights well. Pulse bomb connects, doesn't quite get the kill though. Devik now needs to make himself scarce, but he can't. Atar chases him down.
Australia's invested a lot of resources into this fight, but now Atar is reaping the benefits. 4 kills here for Atar, and he has cleaned up the Sweden team. Australia not out of this round yet. They flip the point in their favor.
Back to life for the Australians now. However, Sweden maintain 91% capture progress. So if Australia lose this next fight or any of the next fights, it's going to be over in this round. They need to maintain control for the entirety of the rest of the round.
Australia must be perfect from here on out. If they give Sweden another opportunity, they will lose this round. So this is where the Australian defense now, that they are in control of the point, is so very, very crucial as Sweden comes into attack once more.
All eyes on Atar, the orchestrator of Australia's victory in the previous fight. Now he needs to try and find a good angle to do damage from here. He's got good range, but he's vulnerable up close. He gets swooshed very low as he tries to drop down. No! Tvik finds him there, cleans him up with the help of his support player in Chips.
And that flanking DPS coming from Tvik, again striking deep into Australia. 4 kills from Sweden, and they drop the sound barrier. More protection from them to help seal at this point. They will be flipping it back in their favor.
This is not good at all. 95% and ticking for Sweden here. Australia need to literally throw themselves at the point on this map. But Atar, he's being waylaid a little bit here, harassed out by Tvik, and he can't advance any further. No one from Australia could make it to the well before time ticked down, and Sweden take the first round on Ilios. One more, and that will mean it's 2 maps to 0.
On this map, you must win 2 rounds to be the victor. Sweden, meaning now that if they take this round, that will be it, and they will be up 2 maps to 0 over this Australian team. However, we've seen Australia fight back from worse situations. You would never want to count them out here just yet.
Absolutely. They had previously, of course, lost their first map of the entire event, but we all knew that Sweden would be a formidable foe for them. From a region, of course, in the world that is famed for their esports professionals, and 6 of them on this roster means Australia definitely has to lift to match them.
Well, we now go to the Ruin stage, which is one of our larger control point rounds. There's more space for both teams to operate in, and that means that we're going to be seeing Widowmaker come into play. Widowmaker is a long-range sniper hero that can deal incredible burst damage from afar.
Again, sniper now for each drop. He's definitely looking for some of those targets, but no! He shoots at Swoosh, but Swoosh at the same time uses his reflectability. He sends the high caliber bullet back to the dome of Ichu up and makes him look like a fool.
And that is terrible for Australia. Sweden will be coming in with a big 6-on-5 advantage here. And it doesn't mean the fight is unwinnable, but it means that they have a tough hill to climb if they want to get first control here. And now we look at Atar, down the Tracer, rolling around, going to try and channel his inner Tvik here to pressure the Sweden team, but it doesn't work. Swoosh has been monstrous here so far.
He started off the fight with the kill on Woditu up via Reflect and then got 3 more. That's a huge contribution from the Genji player on Sweden, the Cyber Ninja, clearly working out for them so far. Australia had to be very tentative on their approach now. They know that that area is crawling with Swedish players, and Ichu up does not want to get up close and personal with any of the Swedes.
And right now, he is looking here from long range. One shot can kill a hero in one shot if it is placed at their head and they have lower HP. So that's what he's looking for right now. Gets a shot, it's not quite enough. But it is applying pressure to the Sweden team and making them respect this sightline.
Drop again, looking for those targets, trying to find an opening here, but so far, none have been forthcoming. Australia might have to come up with a different approach to trying to get towards this point. The EMP has now been used by Gumber on the point. That's a good opening for Australia, and Chip Ryan, his head is plucked like an apple from the tree.
And that's why you play this hero, to get those early pickoffs and give your team the edge. Now Australia, a numerical advantage. They're going to roll into the point, try and press it, but Tvik pulling it back a bit, but blows himself up in the same note. That will end Tvik, at least for now, and give Australia this point.
Yeah, a bit of a blooper moment there. Tvik obviously put the bomb on the ground, kind of hoping, I guess, that each drop would drop off the high ground, but he hung around a little bit too long. You can't be destroyed by your own explosives as Tracer. You've got to be careful, but Australia are back in control now. And here's RQT, the team captain, playing the Lucio role. His idea is to give healing and speed to his team in differing amounts, and of course, he needs to get involved, get close, and help his team here.
And now he uses ultimate ability sound barrier. It gives his team shields, but it only hits 3 members. Australia's a little bit pushed out here. It's not the greatest defense here for them so far. Sweden starts finding their way to the back, but that self-destructive Kiki, so big to take down Chips.
Again, Chips Ryan is having a tough time staying alive in this fight. Australia fight back. They bring the onslaught as Sweden were advancing to the point. They preempted them by starting the fight before Sweden could set up in advantageous positions.
Australia now, they have brought this back to even. You look at the middle of your screen, it's 48% to 48%. Now, both teams on the edge. Australia needing about 2 to 3 more fights to bring this round in their favor and force a round number 3 here on Ilios.
56%, they are in the lead right now, the Australians, but Sweden are coming back and there's blood in the water. They need to try and shake Aussies off their perch right now, and Kiki just backing up a little bit there. He's piloting a very big slow mech, has good damage output, but he's trying to keep that Winston Monkey at bay.
The EMP comes in here from Australia, hitting Sweden, but it did hit Devo's side, who's able to stay up in sound barrier, but it's not enough. Australia, with the first 2 kills here, they are in a very good position.
They're in the driver's seat right now, but they haven't quite reached the destination. The pulse bomb has dropped on Kiki, and it forces him to eject from his mech yet again. He's so fragile without it, and he gets taken down as soon as he hits the ground. Sweden back in control now, 4 kills to their favor. Swoosh even chased down the sniper of Ichu up to clean him up with a Dragon Blade.
So even though Australia will be pushed off the point here, it's still not bad. They are now at 90%. if they are able to take one more fight here, they will still be able to claim this round. However, they will have to do it against the defense of Sweden that now gets time to set up. We now turn the eye you up here, Mitch, where he's looking for a long-range pick here once again. He got one earlier in the game. We'll see if he can do it once more.
And note that the Swedish team are trying to make themselves scarce right now and not give a clear line of sight to each up so we can find them. Very comfortable position to play from as this Widowmaker hero here, but getting closer could spell Ichuup's demise.
And he's under pressure right now. You see the Winston diving on him, and he takes him out. The melee power of Winston. Too much for him to deal with here as Sweden opens up with a 6v5. And because they have the edge, they're pushing back into Australia.
Barreling towards the Aussies. In fact, they realized that Australia were a man down, and that was their opportunity to take a fight when it was 6v5. Now, this is scary. Sweden have just overtaken Australia. It's 94% of the capture process. The Aussies have to get to the point.
We're at 5%. They must touch the point now or the round will be over. Atar looking for a way in. We are in overtime. They touch it at the right moment, but they are down in numbers. Now Atar must be a hero. He must somehow pull this back. Australia, they engage with the sound barrier.
And that's going to help them a little bit, but it might not get the job done. They're going to throw themselves at the point that the Swedes use the EMP. That's going to prevent Australia from using those all-important abilities, and that makes it so hard for them to have any capacity in trying to take this point back. They need to match them at 6v6, but they've been trickling on by one at a time, and it's not going to be enough. The second map here will go to Sweden. And for the Aussies, it's crunch time.
Sweden right now striking in a way we did not necessarily expect coming into this. We knew they were strong, but Australia, they were undefeated before getting here to this day, and Sweden has proven to be more than a match.
The first two maps definitely not going in favor of the Australians, it's safe to say, but a little bit more talk about Ilios. We saw Ichuup switching off the Tracer, the mobile flanker, now to try and play the Widowmaker. A sniper, obviously, that wants to try and keep the enemy at arm's length to do as much damage as possible. And the final time we looked at him in that round, he was leapt upon by Reinforce playing that Winston. Winston's excellent at doing that. He can cover a lot of ground with his rocket jump, and the idea was to quickly get in the face of Ichuup and not give him any room to get those long-range, precise shots.
And that's the adaptation that you can see in this game, where even though for one play it might work out to be running the Widowmaker, the Sweden team saw that and they sent Reinforce to deal with him, to counter him, and not give him the space that he had in the very beginning.
It's half time now. 2 maps out of 4 are done. And let's head over towards the desk and have the experts break down the action as it happened.
Thank you so much, guys, and welcome to the desk here, where we will be breaking down what we saw in our first 2 games in this 4-match set. So, guys, not the best start here for the Aussies. It certainly was not what they were expecting. Zoe, you're rooting for Sweden over here, so it seems like you're pretty happy.
Point me out in this Australian crowd. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I like it. I'm actually really impressed after, you know, the past 2 days for Sweden. They looked like the coordination and the communication just wasn't quite there. However, what we just saw in that game, like, is exactly the opposite of what we were already complaining about the past few games we saw of them. They used their ultimate abilities spot on, coordinated with each other like really well. And even though they had a bit of a rough start on that first map where Australia was holding the first point excellently, they did come back and like managed to full hold themselves on the first point, and then it just snowballed from there, and I was really impressed.
Yeah, well, Flame, you're our expert analyst here, and I want to get your take on this. What did Sweden figure out against this Australian team?
I think that they finally just strayed away from what they were doing previously. They started playing the heroes that they felt more comfortable on. We saw yesterday Chipsijin was actually playing a lot of Zenyatta, and it didn't really work out for them. But today he was on the Sombra a little bit more. We saw a little bit more of the Ana, stuff that he's very comfortable, probably one of the best players in the West actually at. And putting players on stuff that they're comfortable on is obviously showing to give them that edge that they needed today. I mean, they 2-0 Australia. That's not an easy feat.
James, you've been talking a lot about this Australian team here. What do they need to do, in your opinion, to turn it around here against Sweden?
I'm not terribly worried for Australia. They've been in this format before, where you play this best-of-4 set or 4-game set, so they can rally back. Honestly, I just want them to take this break, just regain their composure, and I think they were doing, for the most part, the proper things, right? They were trying to focus down to Vic and make sure he wasn't getting to be too much of a problem. The issue was that on the side of Sweden, everyone was coming alive. Manitin, Swoosh, even Chipsijin, everybody. So that can become an issue.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the standings here in case you're joining us for the first time, and get you up to date on where we are, because Australia is currently leading their group with 8 wins, 2 losses. Sweden, though, looking to really threaten that first place position. We will be seeing Portugal and Italy later on in the broadcast. And then on the other side, for Group D, we have a much different and very unexpected situation where the land of the rising sun, Japan, currently 7-1 in the group. Spain, Finland, and Vietnam are looking to rally back here today. And for Spain and Finland, this is a big opportunity for them to qualify for BlizzCon. So there's just a lot of pressure here for all of these teams to perform today. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the matches that we will be seeing today as well. We're starting the day off with Sweden versus Australia. That match is in progress. Then we have Italy versus Portugal, Finland versus Japan. And that will be the start of our Group D action. And then Spain facing off against Vietnam. Now, the winners of those groups, the winner and the runner-up, will face against, on the other side, the winner and runner-up of Group D. And that will determine who will qualify for BlizzCon. Currently, for the Overwatch World Cup, we have China and France waiting in the wings to find out who will join them in Anaheim, California later this year. So we want to welcome back everyone here at 7mate, and thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you are enjoying your time watching competitive Overwatch. It is a burgeoning esport and a fantastic game, and we couldn't be more honored to be broadcasting this live on Australian television. And you hear the capacity crowd here going wild for the home team. We have a packed house here, guys. And James, I'm sure you're happy about this one because everyone's really rallying behind the Australian team.
The great thing about being in front of this crowd is that Australia is a burgeoning region. They are starting to prove their worth and turning heads. And starting off this group, 8-0 Australia is definitely a great sign for them. And I want to see more from this region.
Flame, are you concerned about this Australian team?
Not terribly. I mean, this is the first time I think that they've really been challenged. We saw Portugal show signs of life, but Sweden got better as this tournament went on. They started off a little bit slow, got way better yesterday, and today has been their ultimate test. Australia is nobody to take lightly in this tournament, and being up 2-0, you can't ask for more, I think, if you're a Swedish fan right now. Now they just have to keep it going, bring this on into the second round, because both of these teams have stamped their ticket into the playoff stages later today.
Zoe, Sweden had a lot of confidence against Australia here, and we even heard the commentators say that in the pre-game chat, they were kind of getting in the head of Australia. I don't know necessarily if that worked. It seemed like at the end of the day, it was their skill that brought them to this point. What do you think?
It really was, and I think they're just going to continue in exactly that fashion. In that last map, we saw them forcing Australia off of their comfort heroes, and I think they're going to continue like that.
Well, we will see if Sweden can keep it going or if Australia can rally back in front of their home crowd. Let's go ahead and send it back once again to your commentators, Uber and ZP.
Thank you very much, Golden Boy on the desk, and a big hello again to our friends watching via 7mate. It's a pleasure to have you here to witness potentially historic moments here for Australia, at least in the esports scene. My name is Mitch Leslie. I'm joined here by Andrew ZP Rush. It's 2-0. It's safe to say that Australia now has some work to be done in terms of the overall map score is 8-2 for Australia and now 8-2 for Sweden. Only one can top this group.
Absolutely, but the one great thing we know about Overwatch is that teams can make big comebacks here in this game. It is a game punctuated by stories where even if you lose the first two maps, you can easily come back and even the score. And there's nothing that this crowd would love more than for an Australian comeback here.
And it's possible. Volskaya Industries is going to be our next map, and it's a different game type. Now we've moved on to Assault. If you cast your minds back, of course, to the first map in Hollywood, where teams had to capture the first point to get moving in general, well, now the map is made up of 2 points. Attackers need to move to point A and capture it by having control of it for a set period of time. Then they move on to capture point B. Defenders need to waylay them as much as possible and ideally prevent them from taking any points at all. And of course, the team with the most checkpoints after a set period of time will be victorious.
And typically here, when you look at this game type, what you often see is that teams will regularly get through point A, but getting through point B is much more difficult. The attackers do not have quite the edge that they do in getting in on that first point. But defenses can make a really good showing by dragging out time as much as possible at point A, and every now and then you can hold a team right there.
So the camera now is panning out over point A. Sweden are the defenders to start off in this map, but they need to prevent the Aussies from having control of this area of the map. Note that there is a bit of high ground around the edges here. The Australian team will likely try and utilize this by using the tunnels and the access points to get high ground and then leap down. Sweden want to prevent them from getting into those nice positions.
The goal here for the attacking team, which is Australia, is to find a way in that Sweden might not be expecting. Get an early pickoff, and then use that to get more. Use that early advantage to make it a major advantage as you not only take point A, but try and get to the second point. And now we see them going up the right side.
Yeah, again, they're trying to outmaneuver Sweden here. They're sticking together as 6 players. You can see them behind them. Fick is trying to pursue, try and pick off the stragglers. But Australia have had a good job of staying together as a unit now. They're in position. Now they can foray forward from here.
And when you stay together as a unit, what you can do here is you can utilize your tanks to protect your entire team. You might not be as sneaky, but you are very durable. And they are playing this very ground and pound style right now, where they're using the room for cover and trying to outpoke and outmuscle the Sweden team.
Atar, one of the shining lights for Australia so far in his last couple maps, has a big yoke on his shoulders. One of the main damage dealers for Australia. He needs to use this long range to his advantage, but Trill goes in. But Winston jumps ahead of Australia. He's already found 2 kills.
And that is the power of the setup, where they were able to weaken Sweden from afar, dive right in and secure that advantage. But Sweden, we see Tvik, he's being the ruiner of dreams once more, moving into the Australian backline, but this time it's not going to be enough. The terror has been vanquished.
Tvik, arguably one of the most talented players in the world at Overwatch. Sweden are lucky to have him there, but even his contribution wasn't sufficient. Australia, on their first attack this time, control point A.
They're going to be taking this point, and now the question is, they get a little bit of momentum from grabbing point A. You see that Atar has his ultimate ability charged up here. Will they be able to utilize this to keep Sweden off balance? Sometimes we see this happen on this map type, and they're pushing Sweden back.
Atar's tactical visor results will be very important because it doesn't actually require him to aim. He just needs to cursor roughly over the enemies, and his gun will automatically target them. It's a huge bonus. It's a bit of an aimbot if you know the lingo, but now Atar wants to set up behind his team. Sound barrier, Australia going in.
Australia, they're doubling down. They seize this as their moment. They get onto the point. They're already getting progress. They have a 2-man advantage, and Atar is going home. Atar with the triple kill, and Australia now making this point their own.
Stylish finish from Atar there. The fadeaway helix rocket to catch Tvik, who would have been the biggest thorn in Australia's side so far. It's been such a good fight for Australia. They've lost no one yet. They're up on the point. Sweden scrambling to try and respond, scrambling to try and get some control back, but they're so far behind the 8-ball here. Australia, an ironclad grip on the lead.
Sweden right now is shell-shocked. They're looking for any way back in, but Australia is smothering right now. A full control of the point. Trill mopping them up right as they come back in, treating them to that electricity. And Australia right now, they just need a little bit more midge, and this will be a blazingly fast time.
Try as they might, Sweden cannot get any presence on the point. Australia forced to step off briefly, but surely will come back into the fight. Pulse bomb drops on Manhattan, takes him very low. Sweden desperate to try and get back into this fight, but Trill leaps over the top, and Winston, Tvik's picked up Gumbo though. That might be struggle town for Australia.
Tvik has been the thorn in Australia's side this entire time. He's able to take down the support hero. They will have less healing and sustain. They almost are at the point they need. You see in the middle of your screen, they just need a little bit more. But now, Sweden is striking deep into them, and they're starting to pull this back.
Australia now in a 2v2 situation. Tvik staying alive, but Atar finds Chip high. No! Tvik chases him down, gets 2 kills on his own. Manages to shake Australia off the point. However, it's not all grim and gloomy. Australia have 2/3 of the progress locked in. They only need to get the last third of that little circle with the B in the middle. So not much longer spent on the point. 87.1% of the progress has already been achieved.
It is a very good opening air for Australia, no doubt. They are still happy with that progress. They would have liked to have gotten the full capture, but they didn't. But Tvik is down. The terror is gone. Will they be able to take advantage of this opportunity?
1-for-1 trade early, though. Gumbo's already dropped, and the rest of Sweden now standing up in the absence of Tvik. Swoosh found Atar, and that was the key component of Australia to get damage done. The Aussies, again, need to back away and regroup.
Sometimes it's easy to forget with how good Tvik has been playing that he is surrounded by a bunch of great players here on Team Sweden. And yes, even though they were able to pick him off early, you saw Swoosh using the distraction of Tvik to get to the back line and do damage himself. However, Chip's high end is down. He pokes a little bit too far deep, and Australia now with a great 6v5 opportunity.
Sweden have given them an opening, but Australia need to take advantage of it here. Interrupt tries to deliver a pulse bomb on towards the enemy. Winston, it doesn't quite connect. Reinforce is still alive. Atar decides to go for the tactical visor here. He finds Everside before Manhattan on the Swedish side can prevent the damage from connecting. It's a 2 for Australia. It's a 4-for-0 trade so far in this fight. They need to back away and avoid the explosion, but now they're coming back on towards steals the point.
This is so good for Australia right now. Everyone's still alive. Atar is being the champion his country deserves. They only need a little bit more.
Sound barrier for Sweden coming in here, but Kiki deals with Zemsai very quickly. A self-destruct on the point from Australia this time to force Sweden off it. Now, Swish tries to go for the Dragon Blade here. It's a last-ditch effort, but it's not going to be enough. Still being contested now. Couple moments in Australia will have it, but this fight is being dragged out.
The Dragon Blade matched by the Transcendence. It heals everyone, stops him from getting what he wants, and Australia has yet to lose a man here on this point. Sweden, all they're doing right now is delaying, but how long can they keep this up as Australia cuts right through them?
Just one player now on the point. It's going to be the main. Zemsai, Swoosh, should I say, goes into the ice block here. He's just trying to have a bit of fun with Australia right now. Still, the point is contested. The stall's been so very good from Sweden to make sure that they always maintain a presence on this point, prevent it from being captured. The fight is still going.
This has been insane. They've been able to keep a man on the point this entire time. That's the only reason why Australia's not been able to take it. And Tavik strikes into the back. He's taken down the support. This is dangerous for Australia. Yes! Australia able to get the final control. Round one is over. 2 points to the Australian team.
There's a lot going on in that fight. It's safe to say Australia started off very, very well, managing to trade 4 for 0. So they get 4 kills. They don't give up any of their own. The trick is the spawn point for the Swedish team. Obviously, after they die, they come back at a certain point on the map. Is very close to that last stage. There's definitely a defender's advantage. Australia did very well to maintain momentum and to deal with those reinforcements of Sweden that were scrabbling to get to the point. Sweden, though, changed tack. They actually picked a few characters that are very good at staying alive and being a nuisance here. So Australia took them an extra minute or so to get rid of them. That only means that Australia have a less amount of time in the bank when we go back to replay this map again to find a winner. They got 2 minutes and 34 seconds in the time bank.
And remember, the reason why they would do that is that so long as you have a member of your team that can be in that control zone, the other team cannot make progress. So even if you're involved in a losing fight, you want your reinforcements as they come out to try and buy as much time as possible. So what we found from Sweden there is that they recognized that that fight was not going in their favor, but they still tried to seize opportunity there and keep themselves in a winning position for later on in the map.
So realistically, Australia could have had a lot more time in the bank there. It's actually a small number you see right up next to the hero roster there, 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So we'll have to replay the map again if Sweden managed to finish it. But if Sweden don't get both points within the allotted time, they'll lose the map because they need to match the 2 checkpoints Australia have.
And historically, for this map, Australia has set a pretty good time here. It is not guaranteed that you can even complete the map and get 2 points. So if you're a fan of Australia right now, you have to like the positioning that they're in.
It's a good start for Australia, but the job's not done yet. The crowd, of course, getting behind the hometown heroes. But a lot of fans here of Sweden, definitely very, very well liked in this region. Of course, reinforces the man who keeps getting out of his seat. He's playing that Winston role here. He loves a bit of banter with the crowd, but it's going to be Sweden in blue on the attacking side now. They need to get this done fairly speedily.
They do, and now Sweden, they know that they have a time to beat, and they're going for an opposite approach here. While Australia went to the right, Sweden going to the left, and they're going to be using this high ground perch to survey the Australian defense and probe for weakness.
So they take the opposite approach as Australia. They actually set up on this side of the point as opposed to the opposite one that Australia went for in their first attack. That's not good though. Tavik, again, always a menace to the Australian backline, has found each up. He was dealt with though. It's a 1-for-1 trade early in the fight.
And that's a trade you have to feel good about for Australia. Even though you're the defenders, Tavik has been such a threat that having him out, good for Australia right now. Now we'll see if they'll be able to deal with Sweden, as Sweden pushing the issue, putting players onto the point, which means Australia has to put themselves on it in turn to contest.
Sweden were trying to find a quick and easy pick-off there of one of the Australian players, but the tanks, the big, heavy, high-health targets of the Australian side did a good job defending it for Sweden to take a step back and try again.
And right now it's back and forth. Neither team committing too hard here just yet. You look at Chipsai and under pressure, Kiki secures that final kill. That's great for the defense of Australia.
He is knocked out of his mech there as the health of that battle suit did expire. He's forced to eject, but still, he's going to be able to stay around and fight. Tavik actually fell off the edge of the map somewhere in the periphery, so Australia, they're going to hold here for the second time.
And you see the crowd just cheering whenever Tavik goes down. They know he's public enemy #1 right now. So Australia able to buy more time. Their defense solidifies, and this has been a good hold so far right now against the Swedish offense.
And crucially now, some of those ultimate abilities are coming online for both teams. Australia, having done more damage, gets theirs a little bit earlier on. That means this fight, Sweden don't have nearly as many ultimates to use in Australia. They're going to force the issue themselves here.
They open with the MP, and that takes down Chipsai immediately. Wasn't able to survive. And Australia, they dive right in off that early opportunity. They crush Sweden as they try to move in.
We were on board with Zemsai just there on the loose here, and what he wanted to do was use his ultimate ability, but that requires requires him to be able to hit the ground after he presses the key. He wasn't allowed to do that. Trill kept him up in the air, batting him away with those big Winston fists, and Sweden didn't have a chance to use many of those abilities.
And now you take a look, Sweden down to their final minute 50. If they get onto this point, they'll get extra time, but they have to do that first. Australia once more with an opportunity to hold, but a storm is coming. Sweden with plenty of resources here for this fight, and they get to do it in a 6v5.
Not a great start for Australia as well. Gunberg picked off, and Kiki's mech is very low. Sound barrier used now more desperately than anything by Australia to try and weather this onslaught. So far, though, not good at all. Sweden just roll over the top. Finally, they find the entrance point. They find the approach that works for them here, and Australia are surely going to lose the points.
Australia might be losing the point, but as we talked about earlier in the broadcast, if you can delay for a long time on this point, many teams will still see it as a win. They have given Sweden less time to work with on their attack to point B, and also, Australia right now, plenty of time to set up their defense and turn.
So Sweden technically are 2.5 minutes ahead of Australia here. They now have 5 minutes and 3 seconds in the time bank. However long it takes them to finish the map, what's left over will be their time bank going into the next playthrough of this particular map here. So Sweden are looking good, but if their time drops below 2 minutes and 34, you can consider Australia to be ahead.
Australia right now able to reset up. They don't have an EMP in their soundbar here just yet, but they will in a moment. Sweden has to be careful on this attack. You want your attack here to be decisive, but Australia not giving them the opportunity, but Trill going down early. Sweden might have an opening.
Australia have lost their cornerstone tank player, the big defender for the squishy backline. Not a great start at all. Now they're going to use some of those ultimate abilities. The EMP goes over the fight, and Atar now causing problems for Sweden. E2up also finds Tavicki's opposite number, and that's going to provoke a full-scale retreat from Sweden. They lack the players to take this point at this time.
And what that EMP from Gumba did is that it washed over most of Sweden there, stopped them from using defensive abilities, and opened them up for Atar to use the long-range damage of the Soldier 76 to rip right through them. That ended the push and bought Australia crucial time.
4 minutes and 4 seconds remain for Sweden. Remember, if they don't take this point, they actually lose the map outright. It's expected, it's required for them to at least finish so we can go to an overtime playthrough. Swoosh again, throwing these shurikens out from long range. It's just a bit of poke right now, just getting a feel for the situation. But they found a squishy target in the back line. Atar is felled instantly.
Atar's been the hero for Australia. That's a great pickup here for Sweden. And now the nano boost might be going onto the Genji, and it is. That makes it more powerful as he swings his blade, trying to dice through this Australian defense.
Desperately, Australia tried to disengage Swoosh there. Once he's lit up like a Christmas tree, you don't want to be anywhere near him. They back off the point, and now they return. The fight goes roughly even right now. It's about a 4v4 over the point. Sweden doing well with Kiki, and he dropped it back in Australia. I'm going to put the foot down. Get off my lawn, they say.
The reinforcements come in, and they just shove Sweden off of Australian turf. And now, you look at the time remaining. Sweden, only 3 minutes left for their attack. And what this means is that even if they succeed, Australia will almost certainly have a better time if we have to go to extra rounds here for this map.
Exactly right, CP. It's all about how much time you have left after finishing the map. It's generally expected at this level that teams are able to take both points, but perhaps Australia are going to be able to hold them off completely and win the map here and now. Still, a couple minutes remain. Some ultimates here for Australia. The EMP for Gunberry is available and it gets used. Swoosh can't use any of his abilities right now. He needs to back away and be very careful.
Sweden right now is trying to disengage, but it's not in time for Manitin. He is thrown out of his mech. That weakens him severely. Australia, heavy on the assault right now. They sense blood in the water, but Sweden strikes back. They use the sound barrier. They counter-engage, and have the Australians been caught off guard?
They're reinforced a little bit like the Incredible Hulk there. It becomes that big Winston just knocking people around. He kind of loses his cool as far as the story goes. But Atar with the Dragon Blade here, what can he do? He's trying to avoid this Winston, but Reinforce goes for the punch. He doesn't connect it, but Atar is felled off screen. Now, Australia are into stall. They need to trickle on towards this point one by one to keep it alive.
Australia right now looking for a way to stall Sweden and find an opportunity back in. They have gotten a few pickoffs, but Sweden is suffocating right now, killing Australian reinforcements as they come back in. They are almost there to pushing us into extra rounds. A Dragon Blade from Swoosh comes out. That can seal the deal here for Sweden.
Self-destruct doesn't quite connect, and Swoosh is picking up those players in the backline for Australia. You can see Trill jumps in. He's taken very low at the start of the fight. A sticky bomb was applied to him. He lost most of his health in the first second of that. Kiki now forced to eject out of his mech. He'll be cut down and over the top. You can see Swoosh getting into the backline. RQT, the last man standing for Australia. But no, E2up got back towards a point. They're falling as quickly as they come back in. You can see there's the ice block. Bit of a statement being made there by Australia. The May comes out to stall. It's not quite enough. And yet, Australia are ahead by 1 minute. They have an extra minute in reserve as we go back and play through the map again with those times remaining.
That extra minute can be absolutely crucial here in Overwatch. It means that they have more time on their attack to try and get more progress as both teams run through the map again. it is worth noting that because Sweden has less time remaining than the Australian team, that they will attack again, because the team with less time gets to attack.
Or gets to or has to, I guess. Sometimes when you're behind in time, you don't always want to have to be attacking first here. But this gives Australia a good idea of what they need to do when it comes down to their attack. So they'll defend first. If they can hold Sweden off the first point, that will be huge. That means that all the Australians have to do is capture the first point. However, if Sweden make good progress through the map, Australia will then realise they'll have a lot on their plate to try and replicate and essentially exceed what Sweden have done on their attacking side.
Now, let's think back to the first Australian defense. If they were able to put on a defense on first, as good as what they did the first time around, that would put them in a very good victory position. So if they can just put that into a bottle here, Mitch, and come out with it here again, that could be the key to victory for this Australian team.
It's all a matter of distilling that real elbow grease that Australia managed to apply. In fact, I believe their hold was about 2.5 minutes, which is pretty good the first time around. It's got to be better here. They want to stop the Swedes in their tracks and not give them a chance to maybe get a sniff of the cheese at the finish line.
Here comes Sweden right now on the attack. We'll see if they take the same approach to the left. They're thinking about it, and yes, they do. They're going to go off to the left. Swoosh on the 76. We'll be looking for the long-range poke here to put Sweden on the right approach. Australia, they hold back. They know they have room to give.
Again, the big pink mech suit in front for Sweden. Manhattan can prevent a lot of damage from actually connecting with his team at all, so he's got a very important role. Chips high nose being chucked down very low. He's down. Australia get the first pick here. That's the start they're looking for. Trading out kills in a positive manner should mean that they can weather this first push from Sweden.
And bear in mind, Kiki isn't even dead. He's simply demacked. He's still in this fight. He will eventually fall, but the EMP comes out from Australia, and that gives them the edge here in this fight. They will push Sweden off of their lawn.
It may not have been the correct decision for Gumba to use an EMP in this particular fight, but look at this. They're keeping Manhattan alive. They're not letting him get killed because it's still 10 seconds time it's going to take for him to come back. Sweden actually have to wait for Manhattan to find some way to escape the Australians before he can even respawn. That's very big. Last push here for Sweden.
24 seconds remaining. It's not a lot of time. This pressure Sweden. They can't really look for a perfect engagement. They're going to have to throw their bodies on the point and hope for the best. This gives Australia a big edge as we go in to what should be potentially the final fight here.
Last chance saloon it is, Andrew. You're exactly right. And Sweden again being fairly tentative about it, trying to set up and find a good way to get towards this point. Damage is going back and forth. The reinforce is already very low. Swoosh is forced to deal with someone behind him there, a flanking player, but he gets Kiki de-suited to start the fight. That's good, but now reinforce dropping down. The 1-for-1 Australia that come alive in these last few moments. Atar hit the tactical visor onto 2 players, and Sweden are nowhere to be seen. Australia hold them at the door.
Sweden unable to get another point. They are held at a mere 2 points here in Volskaya. Australia, 2 minutes and 30 seconds to only get a tiny bit of progress onto that first point. And that would be enough to give them a map victory here and set them on the path to a comeback in this set against Team Sweden.
You're exactly right. And Australia, in fact, in this position, don't even have to capture the entirety of the first point. It's actually only 1 tick out of 3. You'll notice that the circle in the middle of the screen is segmented into 3 parts. So Australia actually only need that first third, which means that one fight or one little bit of time spent on that point, you can see where the little yellow arrow is there. Australia only need to get to that. That's good. But if Sweden come alive, maybe change their strategy, Australia will still need to be on their best behaviour and be on guard for anything weird to come in from the Scandinavians.
And what this does, this pushes Sweden into high-risk, high-reward mode where their defense will be perhaps more aggressive than normal. They can't let Australia even come in on their own terms because the odds of holding them off for 1 tick would be unlikely at best. Sweden, they're going to have to be a little bit crazy here on their defense if they want to hold this to a tie.
And they'll set up here again, the high ground. You can see the shots coming across the screen. That's Swoosh just doing a bit of practice before the enemies start to spill forth from their attacking spawn. He's up there with Zevasai there. And the idea for Zevasai is to protect Swoosh from that Soldier 76. See him right at the top of the screen. And Australia really want to find those key targets and rip the damage-doing potential away from Sweden before the fight starts.
And Australia right now, they're not really changing their game plan. They're going to go straight up the right, and they're not contested early on. If Sweden was going to try to do it, they did not. Sweden instead holding near the point, circling the wagons as Australia once more looking for this long-range damage to set up their dive to push Sweden off of their own territory.
Yeah, again, these teams are just getting a measure of each other right now and trying to see if there's anything different. Maybe one of them has brought a different hero, a different role that they would have expected to see that could change the approach entirely. But right now, Atar's more than happy to perch up here and get 3 damage, 3 very unresponded damage towards the players on the low ground from Sweden.
And there's still 2 minutes left here. Australia using their time benefit to their advantage. Sweden trying to counter dive back in, but reinforces down.
Here we go.
That was ill-advised. Australia, a 6v5 power play here. Will they be able to take advantage?
Look how close the white bar is on the circle to capturing. Australia looking very good right now. Going to pressure forward. Vic manages to get 1 kill on towards Trill, but it's not going to be enough. EMP used defensively from Chips, but it's to no avail. Swoosh on his own. Zebaside's taken down on the point. That's it. First map of the series to come to Australia. Now we have a game.
The fans are going crazy for that comeback there from Australia. They didn't let the first 2 maps get in their head. They make it a great comeback. And Mitch, we have ourselves a series.
Yeah, I mean, and the implications of that map finally being won here by Australia means that regardless if Sweden take the next map, both teams are going to be tied in terms of their score at the top of the group. That's big. Give that to man. Thank you very much, Australia. That's what we want to hear. And the crowd now a little bit more energy in case they didn't have enough before, Andrew.
They're loving it. This has been a great crowd all weekend long, but what a treat here from the Australian team to come back here on Volskaya, pierce through the Sweden team, and Atar, he was the hero here.
No doubt about it. You can see this last clip, the tactical visor was very important. You notice he actually doesn't have to aim at those targets, right? He actually locks onto them. So in that effect, it seems like a very powerful ability. There are a lot of ways for Sweden to have mitigated that damage, but they were too busy dealing with the rest of the Australians, very much up in their faces, taking their attention away. So Atar was free to do that. 3 damage from the backside. And you can see that's how the fight essentially went down. That was obviously in the first playthrough of the map when Australia were on the attacking side. I had to get to that second point. So it's 3-1 in the series right now. There is 1 more map still to come. But before we get there, we can discuss perhaps very briefly a little bit about what we need to see from Sweden now if they want to make this a 3-1. Because I'm sure they're looking to bounce back.
Well, for Sweden, I would say more of the same from the first 2 maps where you saw Tavik coming in with a powering performance, aided by Reinforce, clearing the way. They were able to sort of have their way with the Australian backline in a way that Australia was not able to deal with. More than that, though, deal with Atar. As much as Tavik has been the kryptonite here for the side of Australia, Atar has been doing the same to Sweden.
Absolutely. Of course, in this last map, again, will be an escort map, and that may not bode all that well for the Australian side here. Hollywood definitely wasn't exactly a shining example of their ability previously. I think definitely most of their success came with Volskaya Industries. I think it's a correct choice to pick that one. Route 66 will be the final map of this series. If Australia win this map, they will be clear top of Group C.
A lot at stake here for Australia. We'll see if they are able to bring things back and give themselves that edge here in the group stage. And one thing to note here for Route 66 here, we've been seeing a lot of good stuff out of Tavik the entire